right, greetings, salutations, one and all. Welcome to your favorite Monday hockey show, the Ultimate Hockey Show. My name is Michael Dale. I'm joined as always by Rick Petty. Good evening, Rick. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about you, Michael?
Very good, very good. Happy Martin Luther King Day to those in the States. I was wondering why there was afternoon hockey when I was scrolling on my phone, and then I remembered, Martin Luther King Day as well. So just a quick update on some games that have already happened in the National Hockey League, although we don't do this very often because our show's usually on uh, at night when the games are being played and not sort of in the middle. At TD Garden in Boston, the Bruins scored four third period goals to upend the San Jose Sharks 6-3. And just coming to a conclusion at Ball Arena in Denver, the Minnesota Wild defeat the Colorado Avalanche 3-1. That's good news for the Jets. Jakub Trenin and Brock Faber scoring early third period goals to break a 1-1 tie. Marc-Andre Fleury, his ninth win for the Minnesota Wild. Tonight, our beloved Jets are in action. The projected goaltenders for both sides are Connor Hellebuck and Connor Ingram. The only other game ongoing right now is at Climate Pledge in Seattle. In the third period, the Seattle Kraken with a 4-3 lead on the Buffalo Sabres. And getting underway in about 5 minutes' time, Jordan Binnington and the St. Louis Blues take on Aiden Hill and the Vegas Golden Knights. Your Amazon Monday night game features the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Toronto Maple Leafs. There's a couple other games out east, which we'll talk about, including the Kings making their return home for the first time post forest fires. So that'll be a good one in LA tonight. Rhett, what did you think of the Winnipeg Jets this week? I mean, obviously, they are first in the Central. As it sits right now with the updated standings, the Winnipeg Jets are 31, 13, and 3, and that presently has them 6 points up on the Dallas Stars, who have a game in hand, 7 points up on the Minnesota Wild, 9 points up on the Colorado Avalanche, even in games played, and then all the way down to 48 and 45 points, respectively. St. Louis, Utah, and then on the outside looking in for next year already, I think you'd agree with me, the Nashville Predators at 39 points and the Chicago Blackhawks at 33 points. So that is the state of things. The Jets coming off a loss, 3-1 with an empty netter to the Calgary Flames. Earlier this week, pretty productive homestand, all things considered, with wins over the Kraken, the Canucks, and the Avalanche. The homestand also featured an overtime loss to the LA Kings, and after beating the Nashville Predators again 5-2, and actually dropping the homestand first two games was the Ducks and the Red Wings. But that was the week before last. We already discussed those games. But that's kind of where they sit now. I don't know. There was that road trip that you and I talked about where it was earlier on in the season. We're going to learn a lot about this team. Was the saying, Pittsburgh, Nashville, Minnesota, LA, Vegas, Dallas, that whole road trip.
Yeah.
If you compare that to the just finished homestand, the Jets did one game better on the homestand than they did on that road trip. So basically, they undid the damage from that road trip on this recent homestand, which is good. You want to make up hay at home. The Jets put themselves in a very good position to be very successful. But Rich, I can't help but feel, especially with that last game, that it was perhaps a missed opportunity to get at least 1 point with how well they played for the most part in that game.
Yeah. That's what happens when you get a hot goalie and you start off cold in the game. You let the other team get up a goal, and then you're chasing the game the whole game after that, the rest of the second and third period. They outshot Calgary more than 2-1,
Yep.
but face a hot goalie and there you go. Why not score the first goal and put the pressure on the other team? Like the Jets
Yep.
lately, sometimes they're slow getting out of the gate. It's just like really, really
It's almost like, Rich, if there was one problem that I had with the Winnipeg Jets, it's that they're notoriously slow starters. This is nothing new. We've seen them give up the first goal, seen them give up the first 2 goals actually, and come back some nights. But it just seems like when they're not starting on time, that's when they tend to lead the problems. The Jets, it shows when they score the first goal. Actually, scrap that, Rich. It's not just the Winnipeg Jets. Teams that score first win a lot more hockey games than they lose, statistically speaking, lead wide.
You're right. Yeah, it's scary. Like when you look at how much scoring first in a game impacts the game, impacts how the game is played and what the result of the game is, which would lead me to think more than anything else, the coach should be putting pressure on your team. Get out there in the first period. Like, do not warm up in the first period. Be ready to go right out of the gate, right? But
yeah. And it's interesting. Sorry, I'm just looking up a stat here as you and I are talking.
yeah.
I wanted to see. Oh, here it is. Okay. I'm not sure how accurate this is. Hold on a minute. I'm looking for. Actually, this is going to take me a little bit of time because it's all time. But here's a very good. If you want to, talk about, just as an example. Now, keep in mind this is a very, very crappy example, but I think it hits home to what I'm trying to bring up.
Okay.
I got up the Montreal Canadiens all-time record when leading after 2 periods of play, all time in the history of their franchise. Okay, they have 3,556 wins when leading after 2 periods to 2,434 losses, a bunch of extra time losses, and a bunch of ties. So, historically speaking, in this page that I'm looking at, more wins than losses when leading after 2 periods. Well, how do you not lose when winning after 2 periods? Scoring the first goal is part of that.
Yep. Yeah.
And again, like, I mean, you could make the argument, oh yeah, Adam Lowry got them back to within 1, and their power play wasn't clicking, la-di-da-di-da. Well, you can't really get your power play to be timely every single game. You're going to need to be able to come back from a 1-goal deficit at 5-on-5 from time to time, and not necessarily not necessarily on the power play or any special teams.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Listen, we always talk about this, and the other team, like, you can't just do what you want to do and not expect resistance from the other team. That's why you play a game, right? But I'm just saying, all things being equal, the Jets are one of the best teams in the league right now with their record and everything else. So what I don't get is, why don't they just take that and push down on the neck of every other team in the league? Why do they need Connor Hellebuyck to save them in the first period all the time when they get outshot and outplayed in order to storm back and try to win it in the second or third period? Sometimes it's too late. Sometimes it works like it did against Seattle, and sometimes it don't, like it did against the Flames. So,
yeah, and the other interesting thing too is, and again, I don't know if there's any correlation between this, but also the record and the number of goals scored with Eric Comrie in that. It's the great mystery. Why can this team not score with Eric Comrie in that? I cannot figure it out. The stats do not look pretty when Eric Comrie's in that, but for whatever reason, score some goals with Comrie in that. You're one of the highest scoring teams in the league.
I know.
And suddenly you can't score when your backup is in. It's a little bit befuddling to me.
I can't answer any more than yes. You're right. It is befuddling. But you know what? It's at least you know what? The Jets aren't the only ones.
Yep.
If I was the coach, I would be telling them at the every pregame speech would be, when we score first, we are, I think I heard in the last game, 20, 23, 1-1 when we score first. So you know what our incentive should be? Let's score first.
Yeah.
You want to win a game? Score first.
Yeah, and then kill your penalties and then score on the power play to help you out.
But it makes a huge difference. Just on another note, Michael, it makes a huge difference because each team has their strategy, they have their game plan, and yes, they play their style and they have their systems, but maybe they do certain things like, oh, we're going to have this guy play against this guy because he's our best defensive player, or this is our most physical line going against their most physical line, or whatever the case may be. You got all these different strategies. But now you get down 1 goal, 2 goals, you got to throw that whole thing out the window and just rotate 3 lines. You probably don't play your 4th line as much. You got to work your first line a lot more, hope for a power play, all these different things. And I'm just saying, why not go the other way? Why not score first and then roll 4 lines and stick to your, there's so much advantage to scoring first. It means you force the other team to abandon their strategies. You could even more so hang on to yours. And it's just like from such an advantage to be playing from having the lead versus playing from behind. So I'll just
no, I agree, and not to say that the Jets failed at that, but it certainly didn't help that they were behind the 8 ball. The goal was scored. The first goal I saw was off a turnover from Dylan Sandberg, which is unfortunate. But I'm not going to spend this show railing on Dylan Sandberg, who's been very good. Probably the Jets' second best defenseman, maybe behind Josh Morrissey, although we could have a discussion about that if that's something you want to get into. So all in all, did we learn anything about the Jets on this homestand, or are we still in the same sort of position?
Well, they went 2-1. You said they'd go 2-0-1. I said 3-0, and they could have gone if they would have just started the game. I think because with Calgary, they outplayed Calgary. You could argue for 2 out of 3 periods. So, and outshot them more than 2-1, like I said, whatever. But
fair enough. But the hockey game's not 40 minutes long; it's 60 minutes long.
Yeah.
So,
but even in that Calgary game, they were only down 2-1. They didn't score a lot, and then they got an empty netter. So I'm just saying, in 3 games, they allowed 4 goals. So they're a very good defensive team, Jets. They know how to play defensively. They play their system really well. They trust each other. They've got they just have a real sense of knowing their style and playing it the right way. And even if they have to shuffle the lineup a little bit, it seems to just keep on going. There is a little bit of a mystery into why they don't score as much playing in front of Comrie as in front of Hellebuyck. Is it maybe that they just have more confidence, even unconsciously playing in front of Hellebuyck, so they take that extra little chance and that extra little maybe move in the offensive zone because they know, oh, Helly will help us on the back end, which they don't want to do with Comrie because they don't have the same confidence in Comrie. I don't know what it is. I just think it's just coincidence. I don't think it's anything in particular. I just think it's a result of Comrie gets a lot of the second night of a back-to-back. Yep. Comrie gets the team maybe when they're tired, just like when Hellebuyck is tired, the team is tired too. Maybe there's a letdown. Helly's out. So
this kind of touches on what Rob said. The team style of play seems to have changed from the first few games Comrie played as compared to the last few starts. I don't know. I would attribute that to exactly what you're saying. Bat half a bat to bat. When he was truly rested in his last 2 starts, He did great in the LA game. He lost in overtime. To me, he did more than enough. When you give up 2 goals before an empty net, you're going to win more hockey games than you lose.
Yep.
So for me, Eric Comrie, his record might not show it, but he has been far from a problem. Rob brought up something else interesting. Vladislav Namestnikov comes back to the lineup tonight. I don't know if you saw the lines this morning in the projected lines, Rich. Connor Scheifele, Velarde, Ehlers, Lowry, Iafallo, Namestnikov, Niederreiter, Perfetti, Kupari centering Gustafsson and Barron, Morrissey, DeMello, Samberg, Piont, and Stanley, Miller, Edstrom, Fleury, and Heinola. Projected starting goaltender is Connor Hellebuyck.
Okay, so who's the forward that's stepping out now that Namestnikov is stepping in?
The forward stepping out is Toninato.
Oh, Toninato, right. Okay.
So what do you think about this? Are you surprised they kept Lowry with Ehlers and Iafallo?
Yeah, that's interesting how they've now completely changed that. Well, I guess it's also a product of Appleton's not in the lineup, right? So you don't have to go back to having Nino Niederreiter playing with Adam Lowry, right? So,
but it's good. Interesting. It was the Namestnikov injury that necessitated this new look anyway. It had nothing to do with Mason Appleton, which I find very interesting.
Right, and now that Namestnikov is back, they put him back into Lowry's old spot on the third line center, playing between. You said now it's between Perfetti and Niederreiter.
Correct. Yeah. Yes.
Perfetti, and then the fourth line is Kupari, Barron,
and Gustafsson.
Right? Okay. No, so I like it.
What have your thoughts been now that I know we kind of talked about it last week, and to be honest, we kind of raved about it, but it was only one game. Have your thoughts changed on the Lowry, Ehlers, Iafallo pairing at all now that it's been like a week and they haven't really changed?
No, I like it. I mean, I don't know what you've seen. Maybe I'll get your take as well, but it's, sometimes when you get matched up with new players on your line, it can be this huge changeover and this huge uncomfortable thing, and you don't know. But these guys know, like Ehlers hasn't played much with Lowry in games, but they practice together every day. They know each other. Like they've been on the same team for 10 years, right? They know their style of play. Even if Lowry doesn't play with Ehlers, he probably plays with them when they have scrimmages in practices 3-on-3, or they do different drills, or they even play within the team, play little scrimmages to keep. So I'm saying they know each other. So it's not like Lowry's just, oh, I'm shocked. Is that how Nick Ehlers plays? I didn't know his game. Like
that's where when you have optional practices, it allows you to do lines that are practice lines that you're not going to use every day. But if this happens, you can store it in the back of your mind as, okay, we know how this is going to work, and that's the way it's going to go. We have a high comment from Kat. You can join her and the rest of the E-team in about an hour and 20-something minutes when the Winnipeg Admirals host the branded weekend in AAA female hockey over on Game Time TV. So from here to there, hi, Kat. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the game tonight. It should be good. But yeah, no, I think. So here's my question and my preference for this.
Okay.
Has the Jets second line center been under our nose this whole time, and we just haven't noticed?
Listen, if you're asking me, should Adam Lowry be the second line center for the Winnipeg Jets? And I love Adam Lowry. I've been on his bandwagon, his fan trail for forever since they drafted him. I thought he was a captain or assistant captain material as soon as they drafted him. I said, he's a son of a.
I remember you and I having this discussion right after he was drafted.
Yeah, he's going to be a beast. I said, he's going to be with the Jets. He's going to be, he's not going to, I said, I don't know if he's going to become this like 100 points a guy, or 100 points a season guy, but he's going to be sort of one of those sandpaper guys playing on the third and fourth line, maybe your captain, assistant captain, kill penalties, be a good defensive forward, 6'5", he'll fill out, and he's done everything that I thought he would do and more. So I love Adam Lowry. I love his game of everything. But to me, if Adam Lowry is playing in your second line, it's not as good as if he's playing on the third or the fourth line. Because if he's playing in the third line, that means you have two offensive centers that are better than him. And that's the thing. That's what I think the Jets lack, is they lack a second line center to be that offensive guy to play with Ehlers and whoever, whether it's Iafallo or whether it's Nemestikov or whoever, and a big center, whether that's a Paul Stastny or a Sean Monahan or whoever it is. That's what I think the Jets miss. And it gets exposed even worse in the playoffs when they've been knocked out. But I just think,
and knock on wood, Rich, if we were to lose Mark Scheifele, that's when I think it would be even more exposed. Because then that leaves Adam Lowry and Vladislav Nemestikov at this point in time as your top two centers if you eliminate Scheifele from the equation.
Yep.
Whereas at least if you were to lose Scheifele in the playoffs that 1 year, you had Paul Stastny, you had Adam Lowry, and, right? So the Jets have just been fortunate, but none of their key guys have really gotten hurt outside of Ehlers for a little bit. Can we talk a little bit about this top line of Connor, Scheifele, Vilardi? Early in the year, I know you and I were having a discussion. It was about 5 or 6 games in, and those guys were being outscored 8-3 at even strength, and we were like, is this line going to work? Well, I'm Rich. I'm here to tell you, Connor, Scheifele, Vilardi, one of the top lines in hockey right now, and it's not even close.
I know.
What do you think of the play of? What do you think of the play of Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor in particular? I did not think that they had this sustainable run of play in them. Now, you could say, oh, yeah, most of that is on the power play. You know how that works, and power play inflates the numbers. Their points at 5-on-5 are just as good as on the power play. And they're defensively responsible to the point where they're not being scored on as much as in the past. Mm-hmm. And now you add a playmaker like Gabriel Vilardi. Like, you and I have had this discussion. This trade, for the lack of a better term, with Pierre-Luc Dubois was basically 1-for-1. Dubois for Vilardi, and we would have been happy. Now you add Iafallo, now you add Kupari, now you add second rounder, which went to Montreal.
What do you mean it went to Montreal?
Sorry?
It went to Montreal?
I thought they traded that pick. Maybe they didn't.
No.
The first rounder that went. And then they had that low second rounder.
They drafted a guy from Finland, I believe. Finland or Sweden.
Right. The high second rounder. The first rounder went to Montreal for Monahan. That's right. My bad. But yeah, no, so it's all in all been very good. I was having a discussion yesterday with an individual that you know, and I thought I might as well bring this up. He's a hockey guy that you and I both know. Mm-hmm. And he said, to paraphrase, he said, it drives my son crazy that Logan Stanley is in the lineup. He can't figure it out why Logan Stanley is in the lineup game after game after game when he continues to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Before this turns into a Logan Stanley railing session, I want people to understand one thing, and this is what I told this individual. When this individual, in this case Logan Stanley, doesn't get a proper run as a first-round pick, how do you know what he has? You can't put him in for 5 games. Oh, he made a mistake. Take him out for 2 games. Put him back in and expect them to have any kind of confidence.
Exactly.
What I said to this individual is, This is a 20 to 25 to 30 game sample size about what is Logan Stanley. After that, they will make the determination. After that, 25, 30 games, you have a sample size. This is the first sustained look at any period of time that Logan Stanley has had in the Winnipeg Jets lineup, and it is going the way
Yeah.
it's going. But to rail on it one game at a time because he made some mistake. And listen, I'm thinking about that one game. It was the Vancouver game where he kind of made the mistake of not playing the puck. He tried to knock it down, didn't knock it down properly, and one of the Vancouver Canucks guys comes in and snaps Hellebuyck shutout streak, and
Yeah.
suddenly that's Logan Stanley's fault.
Mm-hmm.
People, we need to stop railing on Logan Stanley. That's just my opinion. You're free to do what you want. Okay, you're free to say, okay, Logan Stanley's not an NHL defenseman. You don't know unless you play him. That is my point. Is Logan Stanley in the first game in the playoffs? Probably not. I would suspect and I would suggest to you that Colin Miller has won that number 5 defensive spot. You can agree or you can disagree with me. That being behind Dylan DeMello and that being behind Josh Morrissey. That also being Neil Pionk. That also being Dylan Sandberg. And Colin Miller being the number 5. The number 6 being between Logan Stanley and Ville Heinola and or Hayden Fleury. So Logan Stanley is what he is, a guy fighting for his 6th defensive spot. And let's be frank, I think we've said that the Jets will need an upgrade on the back end. And if said upgrade happens, I'm not sure Logan Stanley is on this team. Never mind in this top 6. I think if you acquire one guy, Stanley is your first guy out. Colin Miller, you know what you're gonna get. Steady Eddie, doesn't cause too many problems. You can sit 5 or 6 games and come in and play quite nicely. The guy that really, in my mind, got the short end of his stick, not to go on a tangent too far down the road, is Dylan Coghlan. I really liked his game. But for some reason, he's like number 8 on the depth chart. But options are options at this point, and I'm just here to say that if Logan Stanley doesn't play, how do you not know what he has? And I'll tell you something. In game 1 of the playoffs, if Logan Stanley keeps making mistakes, plain and simple, he won't be in the lineup, and he can't say that he didn't get a chance. So there's my piece on Logan Stanley. I said it. I feel it. Logan Stanley getting an opportunity. What he decides to do with that opportunity is going to be up to him. Is the best part for his opportunity playing with the number 5 guy in Colin Miller or Ville Heinola? Well, I'll tell you what, he's not playing like the top 4 defensemen right now. So there's not a whole heck of a lot of options, as you're not breaking up Morrissey and DeMello, and I don't think you're breaking up Sandberg and Pionk for the most part. So there it is. And Logan Stanley, to me, has not shown that he is capable of sustainably handling top 4 minutes. In the 2 games that he was a top 4 defenseman with Neil Pionk, he struggled. And listen, it's time for Logan Stanley to do something. There's been enough of this. You've been a first-round pick long enough. It's time to start seeing some progress. Because I'm telling you, if we don't see any progress, he won't be on the team much longer, never mind the playoff roster.
Okay. That's your opinion. I have a different opinion, but okay.
Well, do share, because I'm intrigued by what you have to say.
Well, Logan Stanley makes mistakes, but the problem is Logan Stanley has a microscope on him and a magnifying glass because he's made mistakes in the past, and everybody's wondering when is he going to be the first, when he's going to be the value that they spent by selecting him in the first round. It's whatever that was, 6 or 7 years ago. But here's the thing. Morrissey has made the same mistake that
Correct.
Stanley made that caused that shutout to be broken this year. And one game, I remember both DeMello and Morrissey in the same game, each of them caused a -1 for them together. So -2 in total by doing the same, like trying to catch the puck. Right? That's a hard play to make. The puck gets flipped up in the air. You got to stop it, knock it down with your hand or glove, and then get it to your stick and then get it off the boards before a guy gets right on you to steal it. That's why they do it, because it's a hard play to make. The puck can bounce anywhere. But here's the thing. Logan Stanley is going to make mistakes, like everyone is going to make mistakes. But you have to look at the other side. You can't teach or coach 6'7", 245 pounds. Okay. So does he sometimes take a stupid penalty here and there? Yeah. He gets his stick up too much. He should keep his stick down. He doesn't need to cross-check guys when there's nothing going on, a guy skating by in the neutral zone. You have to cross-check him. Just let him be. But then there's other times, like last game, he got an elbowing penalty because he body checked the guy. He came in like this. The guy put his head down, and Logan Stanley was like this, and caught him with his shoulder, and the guy on his body and head, and they called it a penalty, elbowing. That's garbage. Elbowing is like this with a chicken wing, not like this if the guy gets hit. So he gets jammed because he's 6'7", and he's a foot taller than every other player on skates, right? So there's that. And then, you know what? He's going to be a good third pairing defenseman. He's great on the penalty kill. We don't see that, but their penalty kills better this year. Part of that is Logan Stanley. He's got a huge reach. I don't know how many times you've seen a game, a puck gets knocked down, somebody fires it out, and then you say, who is the guy that knocked that stick or got that puck in that lane or knocked that? It was Stanley. But nobody notices because he's got a reach. He's like a helicopter with the blades across there. You can reach from one side of the tarmac to the other. He's huge, right? So there's things that he does that other people can't do. And I think he's going to get better. Is he going to be like a number one pairing guy with Josh Morrissey, logging 25 to 30 minutes and getting 60 points a year? Probably not. But you know what? He's a serviceable third pairing defenseman. He's some toughness, which the Jets are thin on. He'll fight, which him and Adam Lowry are about the only two guys that will on the team. Maybe Mark Scheifele, but I don't want Scheifele throwing haymakers because he's going to snap a finger and then he's going to be out for 3 months with a broken hand. So I'm just saying, fights, he's tough. He clears the front of the net. He's got an edge to him. He's big. You can't coach that. He's not going anywhere, folks. I hate to say that. He's not going. And when the playoffs start, if this is the team, he will be on the third pairing, whether that's with Miller or Fleury or Heinola. And if they're all healthy, he will still be in that third pairing with Miller or Heinola or Fleury.
So here's the question, and what's the long-term future of Ville Heinola?
Well, I think they want him, but the problem, but the problem is how, but every year is unique, right? Because this year will end. They might have another free agent. I don't know who's up for free agency. I don't know who they want to sign, who not. Is Pionk going to be re-signed? I don't know. There's lots of factors at play, right? Injuries can happen. A guy can get a long-term injury and be done, like it happened to what was his name? That good guy who played with Dustin Byfuglien all the time. Grant Clinsome.
Oh, Clinsome.
Yeah. So he was a great serviceable defenseman. He had that injury with his back or his hip or whatever it was, and he was done. That's it. It happens. And he was in their plans. He was in their top four. He was playing. Done. Right? So anything can happen. But I like Logan Stanley. He's not going to be the next Bobby Orr or the next whoever, Paul Coffey. You pick your defenseman. But he's a serviceable third pairing, kills penalties, tough, hard to play against, big, strong, a little bit of nasty. I like him. I want him in my lineup. I'm sorry. And so did the Jets. But another intriguing question just came up. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I was saying, but another intriguing question. I think we've talked lots about Logan Stanley. If everybody gets healthy, does Mason Appleton come back into this lineup?
Oh my. Who comes out is the better question.
Yeah. Well, I think it'll be Gustafson will come out when Appleton comes back in. But just where will Appleton play? Like, will he play on the fourth line? Maybe will he play in the third line? I don't know. Depending upon the success over the next week here against Utah, Colorado, Utah, and the Flames
Calgary.
again, it'll be very interesting over the next week. They've got between this show now and our show next week, they got 4 games. So, yep.
Here's the interesting thing, Rich, and you and I were talking about this, sort of the way it kind of sits. Eric Comrie under contract for next year at $825,000. UFAs on the back end, okay, feature Neil Pionk, Hayden Fleury. RFAs on the back end feature Dylan Sandberg. You have to believe that he's going to get a pretty significant upgrade over the $1.4 million that he's presently making. I don't know what that projection would be. Probably $2.5 to $3 million, maybe. UFAs up front for the Jets this year. Dominic Toninato, Vladislav Nemestikov, Mason Appleton, Alex Iafallo, and Nikolai Ehlers. Pending RFAs, Gabriel Velarde, Morgan Barron, Rasmus Kupari.
Okay.
So there has the potential after this year to be a lot of change on this Jets team, particularly up front.
Yeah, but the only one that's really of significance is Ehlers, maybe to a lesser extent. Iafallo. The other guys are somewhat replaceable here and there, right? So, but
okay, so let's answer this question then. Nikolai Ehlers is presently making $6 million. What's his next contract? 8.5?
I don't know. I don't know what his agent's going to be asking for. I don't think he's worth more than, well, with the salary cap going up, maybe 7.5.
Kyle Connor's at 7.1 and Mark Scheifele's at 8.5 for context.
Right. But they signed a few years back, right? So, like, I'm not putting Ehlers up at $10 million a year. He's not a $10 million. He's not a $9 million a year. He's not even an $8 million a year player in my mind. He can be brilliant at times, and then at times he's like a fart in the windstorm. He's just poof. You don't notice him at all. Like he's just vanishes for a game or two, and he's not involved in anything. So you can't have a guy like that. Like you can't pay a guy like that $8 million a year. You pay drivers $8 million a year, like Scheifele and Connor and Josh Morrissey.
So is the sweet spot 7.25, man?
I think this, like, he's making 6 now a year, or 6 and change.
Yep.
I don't pay him more than 7.5 a year over like 4 years or whatever he wants, or 5. It depends on the length, but I don't pay him more than 7.5. I just don't. He's just not worth it in my mind. He's not worth it. So
is that a 5-year contract then?
I would give him, in the salary cap going up, that's what they're talking about. I would give him potentially like 7 for 5 years, or 7.25 for 5 years. See, this is the problem, is that, like, he signed that deal before for $6 million a year. And you figured at the time he was scoring about 50 points a season, right? Roughly 2 points every 3 games, whatever it is, 45, 50 points, 55. I don't know what his season high is ever. Is it 60? I don't even know if he's gotten ever 60. Maybe he's at 60 or just around that. So he's never had more than 3/4 of a point per game. He's never been a point per game player ever. And in my mind, you're not paying a guy $8 million a year to be less than a point a game player. You've got to be Scheifele Connor territory, making 80 points plus, like
and they're at 8.5.
Correct. Like a Kucherov or Marchand, or you select your player. Those are the guys that make that, because they're those types of players. Now, if Ehlers had signed that deal he did 4 years ago, or whatever it was, or 5 years ago, for the $6 million a year, they were hoping that he would be that player to become that consistent, to be 80 to 100 points a season. but he hasn't been. Now, he could argue, well, I haven't been with a great number one center, or I've always had a new center every year to play with.
Well, I haven't been on the number one power play unit
until
until this year.
Power play up until this last year, or blah, 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 blah. But the bottom line is, if you're a driver, doesn't matter. You could score points even if you're playing with a snowman. So I'm just saying, he, in my mind, is not worth, as of right now, he is not worth more than between $7 and $7.5 million in the current market for 4 years. So,
breaking news: Connor McDavid has been suspended 3 games by the Department of Player Safety for his cross-check on Connor Garland at the end of Saturday's game.
Yeah, because he checked he cross-checked Garland, and then Myers cross-checked him, right?
Myers cross-checked else, but yeah, Garland was holding up. Garland was holding up Connor McDavid from going up the ice to tie the game, which is smart. Garland is trying to draw a penalty. McDavid is frustrated and cross-checks him right across the face. Listen, that's more games than I thought he would get. Kudos to player safety. I thought he would get in 1 or 2 games. The fact they got 3, 2 thumbs up for me. I didn't think they would do it.
Yeah,
that's a stiff penalty for a first-time offender.
Yeah, but it was a really dirty play.
Well, and it's the way it is it's 2 plus the 1 for being in the last 10 minutes of the game. Really,
yeah.
Is that a fair way? Is that a fair way to look at it?
Because he could have broken Garland's jaw very easily.
Yeah.
And what happens if Garland's out for a month with a broken jaw? Then what, right? So, listen, you should not be using your stick. I don't care how frustrated you are. Don't use your stick as a weapon.
Well,
you're going to get suspended. I don't care who you are. Like, and this is the same. It's Connor McDavid right down to the 4th line guy playing for Chicago, right? It really doesn't matter. You use your stick as a weapon in a game because you're frustrated or you're angry, you're going to get suspended. And you should. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is what's Tyler Myers going to get? Because I thought that was the worst cross-check out of the 2 of them.
Yeah, and Myers has been suspended before, so
this might be a 5-gamer for Myers.
I think it'll be a 5-gamer for Tyler Myers, in my opinion. Yeah, 5 or 6. Yeah.
So it's interesting. Rhett, let's talk about the playoffs for a minute. I gave you a little bit of a homework assignment this afternoon,
and I completed it. I'm going to get an A. I'm a good student.
So we'll get to that in just a minute. I just want to phrase the question to you right now. How many Canadian teams does Red Petty expect to be in the playoffs?
As of right now, we're at the beginning of the year when I predict.
As of right now, this 20th day of January.
Well, let's see. I picked, as of when we start the beginning of the season, I picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I picked 5 teams: Edmonton, Vancouver, Winnipeg, Ottawa, Toronto. And I would say I don't know that I'm changing my prediction on any. I still think Ottawa and Toronto are going to get in from the Atlantic.
Yep.
I don't think Montreal is going to make it. I think they have too many, even though they play well at times, I think they have too many holes in that team overall. I think Winnipeg is going to make it.
Wow,
still.
Winnipeg better make it.
Yeah. And then you got Edmonton. We picked Vancouver to get in. I don't know if Vancouver's going to get in, but I think either Vancouver or Calgary, between those 2 teams in the West, besides Edmonton, is going to get in. They're going to be one of the wild cards. So I'm still okay with 5 teams, maybe not the same 5 teams. Maybe now the only one I guess I'm subbing out Vancouver and putting in Calgary. But it could go the other way. Vancouver could make that trade, solve the issue in the dressing room there with Miller and Pedersen, and suddenly flip things around. I mean, it's the same team as last year in essence, and they have a good enough team. They just have to play well together. So
here is a question before we go into the pits.
Okay.
I believe 5 teams will make the playoffs.
From Canada. Okay.
Actually, scrap that. Sorry, 6 teams will make it. I have Montreal and Ottawa making it. I have Toronto making it. The only Canadian team I have not making it is one of Calgary or Vancouver.
Okay.
Everyone else gets in.
Okay.
What were our preseason predictions? You can read them out now. I'm curious today. Again, this was done on like October 2nd.
Yeah. Well, in the Atlantic, I thought the order would be Toronto, Florida, Tampa. You said Toronto, Tampa, Florida. Right now, I am correct. It's Toronto, Florida, Tampa. 1, 2, 3. So that we've got right. And then for wild cards, I picked Ottawa and Boston. You picked Detroit and Boston. But right now, the wild cards are Ottawa and then Columbus out of the Metro. So I'm 4 out of 5 correct, and the Atlantic, and you are 3 out of 5 or 3 out of.
So is it out of 8? You mean?
Or out of 8? Well, 3 out of because I'm not picking okay. But if we go over to the Metro, that's the weird one because the Rangers are the X factor, which threw all of our predictions out.
Yeah.
So the Rangers, I picked first, you picked second. I picked New Jersey second, you picked New Jersey first, and I picked Carolina, you picked the Islanders. And right now it's Washington, New Jersey, Carolina. So I have 2 out of 3. You have 1 out of 3. And then I picked I picked Columbus to be the wild card, and you picked the Bruins. And right now,
it's interesting how we're close, but we're not close.
We are close, except for the Rangers, and then also, the Bruins, although the Bruins are right on the bubble, right? I mean, they're just there and they've played well.
The Bruins could make it or they could fall right out depending on the day.
But really the X factor is the Rangers, because nobody predicted the Rangers falling and nobody predicted the Capitals surging like a phoenix rising out of the ashes. So
they're a Stanley Cup contender right now.
Yeah. Yeah. But other than that, we nailed it pretty good.
How's the West? By the way, Tyler Myers has just been suspended 3 games.
Yeah, Zane. Okay.
I
would have given him more, but that's me because he's a repeat offender. And if you're going to make Connor McDavid first timer 3 games.
Right. If you didn't make that an example of him, you might as well. But
yeah. Okay. In the West, in the Central, you and I picked Dallas. Well, I picked Dallas, Colorado, Winnipeg. You picked Dallas, Colorado, Nashville. Right now it's Winnipeg, Dallas, Minnesota, and Colorado as wild card number 1. So you and I were both thought Nashville would be better than they were, and that's right across the board. We're not unique to that. That's pretty well every NHL prognosticator thought that the Predators would be way better this year with all the offseason UFAs that they signed. You predicted Utah would be in one of the wild card positions, but they're not. And then in the Pacific, Las Vegas, Edmonton, LA right now with wild card number 2, Calgary. I picked Vegas, LA, Edmonton. So the order's wrong, but the 3 right. And you picked Las Vegas, Vancouver, Edmonton. So you didn't have LA in there and you didn't have Calgary. So I have maybe one more correct one in the West. So I've got 6 out of 8. You got 5 out of 8. So not bad considering. Not bad. But look at that. Isn't it interesting? Just let me finish. Isn't that interesting how you cannot predict a team like New York Rangers just falling off the face of the map after being like a Stanley Cup contender to now being, I mean, they're going to be like in the bottom. They might have first overall pick in the draft, how they've just fallen off the face of the earth. But anyway, and then who predicted Washington to come out of nowhere? But they signed some really good offseason players. Andrew Mangiapane. They got I just saw their roster the other day and I thought that team is a good team.
Poltas is a big second line center too.
Who?
I'll have to see Poltas.
Yeah. They added some really good players while still having the grade 8 and still having some other guys there, but they've just really surprised. And then who predicted Vancouver to fall off the face of the earth like they have? So you think Vancouver, New York, and Washington, those three, 2 down and 1 up, nobody predicted at the beginning of the year, and that's almost the whole impact on our predictions, right? So there you go.
And it's interesting, right? Because I think a lot of people, to be honest, are guilty of suggesting, and I think we all are, is, this team made it this far this year, next year should be the next step up.
Yep.
Not accounting for 1 or 2 changes. And I mean, who could have foreseen in October there being reported problems with Pedersen and Miller. And maybe Vancouver was the one, but was a little bit of an overachiever last year. So I don't know. The whole thing's just interesting, and that's what's gonna make the second half very interesting.
Yep.
Pretty exciting. The one for me too was the absolute surprise is Washington. I know they got Logan Thompson and whoever that other goaltender is. Who's the other goalie in Washington? Logan Thompson and
you're racking my brain. You're gonna ask me that right now, just out of nowhere. Yeah.
Well, no. What I mean to say is both goaltenders are playing well. It's gonna bother me.
Why don't you look it up?
Yeah, I am looking it up. The other one that's having a really good year too, kind of under the radar for Washington. Now, but we're talking about is Dylan Strome. He pretty good. Charlie Lindgren, thank you. The interesting part is they've shared the appearances 26 for Thompson and 21 for Lindgren. So that bodes well. The only concern I have for the Capitals is that at the present moment, both of their goaltenders are pending UFAs. So they might take them both as their rental.
Yeah.
Who knows? I think if I'm being honest right now, and if I'm Washington, I'd probably want to keep Logan Thompson over Charlie Lindgren at this point. But
yeah,
they have a half a year to, I guess, make the case. Personally, I don't see both of them staying there. I think both of them are going to want too much money in today's cap world to make it palatable to have 2 goaltenders. But if there's any example of a 1A, 1B, that would be it for the Capitals, for sure. Really quick, I want to talk about Montreal. Jakob Dobes, the backup goaltender. Remember, they sent down their goaltender, Caden Primo, to the AHL. Brought up Jakob Dobes. He's now 5-0, and his wins have come against. And I'm just going to pull this up here. They're no slouch either. Give me 1 second here. But anyway, so he's a big reason why Montreal's had a resurgence, along with Patrick Laine. Both him and Laine are the reason the Canadians have had a much more mature effort. Lately, he's currently 5-0. He's given up 8 goals for a .940 save percentage. His wins have come. Listen to this. Sorry, I lost it. I had it for a minute here, and then it went away on me. He has 1 win against the Rangers. Hold on a second. He has high-end Rangers, Vegas, shootout win against Colorado. Hang on, I'm going to pull it up on my phone. Why don't you talk to me, Rick, about the week that's coming for the Jets while I
sure.
Dobes.
Sure. So the Jets have now, coming up between now, we only have a few minutes left in the show. After today, they play Utah tonight, at Utah, then at Colorado, on Wednesday, home on Friday night, hosting Utah again. And then Sunday night, wrapping up with an early evening game, 5 o'clock, hosting the Flames again for the second time in just over a week. So 4 games against, you could argue, not easy teams. Though, I mean, there's no easy wins in the NHL. But I don't know. For me personally, this schedule, I'm playing Comrie on one of these games. I don't know which one. If it's maybe the Utah game, I'm not sure. But the Jets, those 4 games, the Jets should go 3-1 or even 3-0-1. Will they? They'll probably end up going 2-1-1 or 2-0-2 or something. But they should beat Utah. They're a better team than Utah. Utah's a good team, but they're not a great team. They don't play a great system like the Jets. So Colorado, that's always an X factor. They played at home. They beat Colorado. They went to Colorado and they lost, but they're not playing in a back-to-back. They've been in the mountains already for a couple of days after being in Utah first, then going over to Colorado. They come home, Utah and Calgary. So I don't know. I like the Jets going. I like to see them go 4-0, but I think that's just unrealistic.
3-1?
3-1. I think they're probably going to go 2-1-1. But anyway, just.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Colorado in Colorado. If it was in Winnipeg, I'd pick Colorado to win. I do know one thing. I think the Jets get revenge on Calgary. It might be a 3-0-1 week for me. The one I'm not sure on is Colorado in Colorado. Anyway, quickly, Jakob Dobbs, I have his line chart. I found it. He has wins over the Florida Panthers, Colorado Avalanche, Washington Capitals, Dallas Stars, and New York Rangers. Not bad, kid. Not bad. He's a 5-0 record with a 1.55 goals against average and a .940 save percentage. So, Rob also passed it along the note that former Winnipeg Jets WHA and NHL coach Tom McVie has passed away at the age of 90. That statement actually just coming into my email from True North Sports and Entertainment. So,
yeah,
all the best to him and his family on Tom's passing. And I know that True North will handle that with class when it comes to the moment of silence at the next home game. Would presume that's going to happen as well. So, Rhett, hard to believe an hour has passed. It's unbelievable. You and I just started talking, and boom, an hour is gone.
Yep.
But that's cool. This is meant to be coffee table conversation. No real script, no real outline. Just two people talking hockey for an hour, like they would be on the couch over coffee or over a drink. Quick hitting topics as well. Just on the way out, Rick, who you got in the national championship tonight?
You're going to think this is nutty, but I like the movie Rudy, so I'm cheering for Notre Dame.
Oh, me too. Me too. There's just something about the Notre Dame, something about Ohio State being a Michigan guy, being in the national final, but just rubs me the wrong way.
And they haven't won in a long time. So,
yeah. Also, congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs and Buffalo Bills for being the combatants in the AFC Championship game, NFC Championship game. Who would have thought this? The Washington Commanders visiting the Philadelphia Eagles. Super Bowl is 3 weeks from yesterday, so 20 days from now. Is the Super Bowl. So anyway, that's going to be that. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everybody, for commenting. You can watch this show on demand as well. A reminder that in conjunction with the MFHL, in about 43 minutes over on Game Time TV, it's going to be a matchup between the Brandon Wheat Kings and the Winnipeg Admirals. Also just announced last week, Game Time TV, Gero Media, and the Canadian Football Countdown will present 2025 CFL Free Agent Frenzy on February 11th, full day long coverage of the busiest transaction day on the CFL calendar. And who the heck saw Andrew Harris signing with the Riders as the running back coach? Aye. But that we're not a football show, we're a hockey show, just for promo purposes. For Rick Petty, Michael Dell saying so long. We'll talk to you next week. And go Jets, go hockey. And yeah, we'll chat then. Good night from Winnipeg.